Hey there, Alex Navas here, and today we're talking about overcoming, overcoming. We're talking about overcoming overthinking. Sorry, I forgot the line, but today we're talking about overcoming overthinking. And so, welcome to this live. This is a new thing that I'm doing is going live and talking about what I call bite-sized breakthroughs. They're small little nuggets that will get you unstuck, get you doing big things, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your home, whether it's in your business. But I call these bite-sized breakthroughs. So, welcome to today's first bite-sized breakthrough episode. Today we're going to talk about overcoming overthinking. And what I've realized as a coach, being having coached entrepreneurs for over 16 years at this point, what I realize is that a lot of entrepreneurs, they have big ideas, they have things that they want to accomplish, they want to go and put out their work, right? They want to go and grow, they want to launch, they want to start new initiatives, but what happens is they're often overcome by overthinking. And so what that means is that you end up being paralyzed. You end up being stuck in your own way, having these great initiatives and yet not moving forward. And then you feel guilty and you feel ashamed that you're not getting this out, knowing how valuable it is. But there's a way that I've found in coaching entrepreneurs, there's a way I've found to stop the overthinking and really start serving people independent of all those thoughts in your mind. See, the problem with overthinking is they're a bunch of hypotheticals. And what that sounds like mentally, what that sounds like is what happens if people don't like this? What happens if people criticize me? What happens if I'm not good enough? Right? I don't have the qualification. I don't know how this will work. I haven't had the success in this area for very much time. I don't have the certification. I don't have the things that I believe are required to get this information out there. I'm not expert enough. These are just thoughts that go in your mind. They're thoughts that overcome you. They're thoughts that keep you stuck, right? And so when you think about overthinking, it really isn't there to set you off and into a state of momentum, but it actually stops you right in your tracks. So let's dive into four things that will get you out of this state of overthinking. And the first one that I believe is required in order for you to get unstuck. The first one is what I call assess your thoughts. Assess your thoughts, right? Because most likely you have all these thoughts in your mind. Most likely you have all these thoughts in your mind. And so, you're evaluating all these thoughts and you can't get past that, right? But when you assess them, what that means is all the thoughts that hold you back, all the things that come to mind when you think about your initiative, when you think about launching, all the things that come to mind. What I want you to start doing is step number one is to get them out of here and onto here, right? Onto paper. Get them out of your thoughts. Because what happens is they flood us and we don't have the processing capacity to analyze them and to actually start questioning the things that we're questioning, right? In other words, we have doubts, but what if you started to doubt your doubts? What would that look like? What if you started to process the things that paralyze? And so the step number one is to assess your thoughts. And so what that means is, again, get them out of your mind and start putting them on paper, right? This could be a 5-minute exercise. It could be a 15-minute exercise. You could sit down, go to a coffee shop, grab your favorite coffee, and take 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour to get whatever is holding you back, to get it out of you and in a place where you can then process them externally from you. Because the truth is, we've tried to process them in here and it's been very difficult because we keep thinking the thoughts. And in thinking the thoughts, more thoughts come up, more doubts come up, more questions come up, more theories come up. When we get them out of us, then we can look at it outside of us and it gives us a fresh perspective. And so what you start doing is getting them out, listing them out of your thoughts. What are the things actually holding you back? What you're doing is now going from overthinking and you're starting to then process the thinking, which is step number two. You got to process outside your mind. And so the first one is you assess them, get them and take an inventory of those thoughts that stop you. The second part is you process them, right? So let's say you come up with a list of 15, 20 things that always come up when you're about to start, when you're about to launch, when you're in the process of growing, expanding yourself. And so what you want to do is now you start processing them. You start asking yourself, like, okay, this thought here, you're not good enough, for example, right? That's a common thought for entrepreneurs. You're not good enough to do this thing. You're not good enough to teach this thing. And so those come up. And so in processing, you're like, well, I'm not good enough. What is good enough? And we never ask the question, right? We're never processing our thoughts sufficiently. The ones that stop us, we don't process them sufficiently. So when we ask, what is good enough then? Because at least now you have some kind of metric, right? And it turns out that you're just going to make up what's good enough. It's from your experience. These are your beliefs. But then if you're processing them, then you can ask the question, well, does it have to be good enough on those terms? What if what I know was good enough for the people that I want to serve? And so, for example, like let's say I had something that I do and I help teachers, for example. Like these are educated individuals, and I might have something for teachers, and I might say, well, I'm not a teacher. I don't have that teaching experience, but I know how to build out curriculums. But I've never been a teacher at a school, right? But I've taught all my life and I've built curriculums in these different contexts. What if I'm not good enough? Well, what is good enough actually? Well, I think good enough means that I have to have been a teacher, and I have to have done it for say 15 years, for example, right? As you're processing it, you start getting to the beliefs behind the overthinking. And the belief is, in order to be good enough, I have to be a teacher, and I've had to have done it for 15 years. And then you start, as you're processing it, then you realize, like, is that even true? Which then moves us to step number 3, right? So the first step is assess your thoughts. The second step is process them outside of your mind, outside of your head. Get them out of you, put it on paper, process them. The third one is collect evidence. What evidence do we have that this thing that we're thinking, this belief that we have, is actually true? And you realize, well, yes, I'm not a teacher, but like I have teachers in my family. I have friends that are teachers, and I show them how I organize information, and I make it a lot easier to teach, and they've gotten a lot of value. Wait, but so even though I'm not a teacher, even though I haven't done this for 15 years, there's evidence in my life that people have gotten value out of what I'm doing. And then so suddenly the thing that we're overthinking, we're processing it. We're looking for evidence. Is there evidence of my current belief that holds me back that's true? And oftentimes we find it actually wasn't true. And so suddenly you move into next three, or step 4. And so step 4, once you find the evidence, in other words, put it to the test. Whatever the theory is in your mind, whatever that hypothetical situation, instead of being parked in your mind and in action, actually do something with it. Say, well, let me test it. Let me see if it's actually true. You find evidence. And then number 4 is, once you have evidence, once you actually put it out in the market, once you go do the thing, once you go launch, now you have data backing up either your belief was true or it was actually false the whole time, right? But we're actually testing them. And most people don't get this far. They never test their theories. They never test their doubts. They never test those beliefs that have held them back. They never put them to the test. And so in our minds, we're like, well, but I don't want to waste time. But if you think about it, how much time have we already wasted in indecision, in the overthinking? Most likely it's been days, weeks, months, some of you years. And so if you experiment for just a couple of days and you get data, and then you find out that, yes, there was truth to what I said, but here's what I can do about it, knowing that information. Or you can say, it wasn't true the whole time. Let me just go in, full momentum, nonstop. Let's just get out there, because I've proven that what I've been holding on to wasn't true whatsoever. And so those are the 4 steps to overcome overthinking. Number 1 is assess your thoughts, right? Assess them, take an inventory of what are those thoughts that create the overthinking. Number 2 is you process them outside of your head. And so you get them out of here, you take the inventory, get them out of here, and then you start scrutinizing that list. Start saying, well, what does this mean? Where did I get this from? Who told me this? Why do I believe what I believe? Number 3 is then go and test the theory. Go and test it. Before you get into the habit of testing, it feels painful to go and test a thing, because your current belief makes it feel painful. But what if the belief was like, I'm just going to go experiment. I'm out of curiosity. I'm gonna see if what I've been holding on to is true. Like, still you trying, right? You're just looking at it very differently. And so you try, you get evidence either yes, it is what you thought it was, and then now at least you know, and you could decide do something with that or change the way you do it. But we're getting evidence, or it could be that the thing that held you back hasn't had any power over you the whole time. It's all been in the overthinking. And so when we put it to the test, now we know if it's actually uh, worth considering in the steps to take action. And then the fourth one is correct when necessary. So like once we test it, once we get that feedback, what are we going to do with this feedback? Either do more, do less, change this, change that, remove this, add this. But at least we have data, and we're making data driven decisions instead of fear based, just feelings, thoughts, without even knowing if this is true or not. So anyway, how do you overcome the overthinking? It's four easy steps, and I hope you got a lot of value from that. These are called bite-sized breakthroughs, and I'm going live every single day to share these little nuggets that would make an incredible difference over time. Hey, how do you, there's a saying, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. How do you create the life, the family, the business that you want? One bite at a time. And that's why I welcome you here to tune in to bite-sized breakthroughs, because we're going to get your goals, we're going to create a big vision, and we're going to accomplish it one bite at a time. This is Alex. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you soon.